With the US Census deadline quickly approaching here, a campaign urging people to participate continues to sweep the South. Former Georgia Representative Stacey Abrams is helping to lead that initiative. Mara Sirianni spoke with Abrams about the negative impact undercounting Georgians will have for years to come.
With time running out, Georgia's census response is the second worst in the country. That's according to the federal government, and there is a lot at stake. Fair Count founder Stacey Abrams and former New Orleans Mayor Mitch Landrieu launched Census in the South Road to Recovery. It's a virtual bus tour across Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina. The message: complete the 2020 census. As we reported, the census is on track to drastically undercount the South. That's why both leaders want to remind people the 2020 census is a critical step in directing more than $1.5 trillion to the states through federal programs each year for the next 10 years. In Georgia, Abrams says this would directly impact communities of color and rural communities.
40% of Georgia is comprised of communities of color, more than 40%. And that means that if we are undercounting communities of color and rural communities, which are the two hardest to count populations, we are risking losing millions of dollars every single year.
The deadline to complete the 2020 census is September 30th. That is exactly 2 weeks away, so time is running out. If you'd like to complete it, which you can do online, head to our website, 11alive.com, and click on this story.